Hey everybody, welcome to Your Unpaid Therapist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Your Unpaid Therapist.
I'm not getting paid. I didn't even get a donut.
Oh, that's sexy though. I like it.
I'm Valerie Milagros Ortiz.
I don't know.
I am your host, Ali Kona. She's away. Bradford.
This is Your Unpaid Therapist. Shoo-wah, cha-cha. Hello, as Mrs. Doubtfire says, which we watched the other evening. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Your Unpaid Therapist, the Hawaii edition. My name's Ali Kona. You know that already, but just cuz. And hi, who are you, strange person?
Aloha, soy Valerie Milagros Ortiz. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So today we wanted to talk about saying goodbye with grace because sometimes that is really hard to do, whether you have a friend, an ex, or a somebody in your life, family member that's done you wrong and it's time to part ways. It can be difficult to say goodbye with grace, but I'm a work in progress. Anyway, that is the topic for today, but we are going to get into our songs. Do you know what song you're going to do yet?
I do, but you can go first.
Okay. Fine. Me. Okay. It's an oldie but goodie, guys. I'm doing this tonight. You're probably gonna start a fight. I know this can't be right. Hey, baby, come on. I loved you endlessly when you were meant for me. So now it's time to say, damn, I'm a Justin Timberlake. Come on. Whatever. You know the point. Bye, bye, bye. That's my song. Anyways, and I guess that's sort of just in theme with what we're talking about today, just being able to say bye, bye, bye and choose yourself first, but also, again, doing it without shaming and putting the other person down. That's what I've been focusing on. What about you? What's your song?
My song, let me just sing it and then I'll tell you the story. Going to the chapel and I'm gonna get married. Going to the chapel of love. So, no, I'm not engaged. But I am going to the Little White Chapel in Vegas this weekend to celebrate my best friend's 15-year wedding anniversary. And it just goes with this week because I thought I was going to be home already and prepping for that. And so there's just so much to do before that trip. Literally, I'll get home. We get home early Wednesday, and then I'm driving to Vegas Thursday. So I am excited once I get there. I think in my head, I'm like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. But I'm just so happy for them. And it's kind of like going to be such a fun little thing.
Cool. Yay. All right. Well, we're sharing a mic. We're on location in Hawaii if you're listening. And so our setup is a little bit different. So Val and I are handing the mic back and forth. Can be a little bit tricky. But anyways, so the reason I thought of this topic is because in my life, I've had, be it best friends or ex-boyfriends that I've had parted ways with. And in the past, as a younger person, I think the easy go-to is like to go to your girlfriend and talk shit about that person and point out all the things that were wrong with them, you know, like this person was such an asshole and da 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 da. And recently, in parting with somebody, I knew I was parting with them because we were on a timeline, but at the same time, it just ended. I've talked about it, just not the way I thought it was.
What do you mean you were on a timeline? Oh,
because I was touring with somebody, and I knew that it was going to eventually have to come to an end. We don't live in the same.
But I would like to say it wasn't like you knew it was a situationship, so it wasn't like it wasn't heavy or anything like that. And yeah, so you knew what it was, and it was still fun.
It was just a whack goodbye, right? And so, anyway, point is, rather than pointing out all the things that are wrong with the person and be like, well, he's this and he's that, and it's a good thing he didn't work out, and it's a good thing it was gonna come to an end because that, and I thought about it, and like that's just not healthy because then that's erasing all the good things that happened with that person and all the lessons learned, and accepting the fact that this person is part of my journey and I'm a part of their journey too. Like I hold just as much significance, whether they realize it or not, that I would hold to them. So Anyways, that said, Val, I know that you've had your share of different breakups and stuff like that. So how have you been able to process some of those things? And look, it's okay if you or anybody else out there didn't process it in a healthy way and now can look back at it and be like, well, probably should have handled it differently, but you know.
Good question. I think that they were both different. Like my most significant, I was married before. And I think that, especially, I mean, I went to therapy. So I feel like that was a really good transition into healing and acceptance and all that. Because in the beginning, especially with divorce, like, and being divorced in this industry, by the way, my finger's still funny. So if I look weird, like I have a claw, you're right. Because I can't.
You're right.
Yeah, I can't straighten my fingers. But yeah, there was so much shame for me outside of that word, and that situation, it was kind of a slow decline, where things revealed themselves, and it just felt like it was a progression of, yeah, this is probably not going to continue, right? And it wasn't abrupt, and there was an understanding behind it between both of us. So it wasn't hard. The second one, like where I was in a really long relationship, I thought I was going to marry that person, and so that broke my heart, like that. And I was the one who walked away, which was even harder. Like walking away from a situation that necessarily isn't bad, but it's not what you ultimately want. Is the God, that is hard. And you still have love for the person. They haven't cheated on you. They haven't technically done you wrong, but kind of. But they still treat you amazing. It was a lot to process. But at the end of the day, for me, it was definitely like, and I mean, look, it took a long time to get there, but it was a lot of, what do you want? You being me. Okay, this is what I want. This path doesn't seem like it's going to get me there. So I need to turn. I need to get another lane. I need to rent a whole other car. I don't, just start over. And that was really, really hard. And I think there were times where I was like, well, fuck him, because da 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 da. Like I absolutely, because that helped. You know why I had to do that? Because hadn't, other than like not being where I wanted to be, there wasn't anything huge like cheating on me or like was a total a-hole, or you know what I mean? So I had to, so I wouldn't like stay in that situation, like in my own head, be like, but this and this and this, and make things a little bit bigger for myself to kind of remind me, like, you don't want to go back there. Like, yes, he's a great person and the family's amazing. Like, there was so much good that I personally had to amplify the bad and the reason why I was walking away to make it okay for myself. And to this day, like I still talk to his family, and we went through a lot together with his niece passing, who had leukemia. A lot of you donated to that when it was going on. So it was tough because it's like I had to do that. But even like I said, to this day, like I wish both of them like well, and I'm in such a happy place. Not that that was an easy journey. Did I answer your question?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, I just asked you if there was anything that you would have done differently, or because you said you did have to
I didn't answer your question. No, there's nothing I would have done differently. I know because maybe gone to therapy sooner during my marriage. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything I could have done different. Leave sooner both times. Yeah. The end. Period. Exclamation point. Exclamation point. Exclamation point.
Right. But I mean, maybe there was a lesson in not leaving sooner.
A huge lesson. No, that was the lesson, and it was self-worth, instinct, choosing myself. Yeah, a lot of things.
Same. I think because I was in a long-term relationship with somebody, I lived with somebody twice. I've lived with somebody. And the first somebody, sorry, that gets confusing because we're being so ambiguous. Like somebody, but the first somebody, I didn't have necessarily anything. He was also like a really great guy, just not my guy. And so when he finally left, kind of wish I would have done it sooner, but didn't feel the need to be like, oh, this person is awful, because he did treat me so good. It just was not my person. But then the second person, there were things that like you, I wanted that I felt like I wasn't getting. So when they left, it was, well, a shitty leaving. So I guess talked shit a little bit about it, but it was more like, okay, this person, without being negative too much towards them, but being like, they weren't right for me because blah, 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 blah. And they weren't a great person, but they couldn't give me this. So therefore they were not right for me because, versus being, yeah, he's an asshole and he's selfish and he's done. And look, maybe he is or she is, whoever your person is. But I just think it's really good to be in that mind space of also taking accountability too. Like, even again with friendships, I've had friendships go awry and out of the blue where I felt like, oh, I just got screwed over like multiple times by multiple people back to back to back. And then I thought, okay, am I the common denominator? Like, why she just say you are?
No, and I'm not saying in that specific situation, but in any situation where there's a pattern being repeated and by different people, different walks of life, and you're involved, you are, you know, and why, that's what you're trying to figure out. But 100%.
Yeah. Because I had a spurt of probably like 3 good girlfriends that I thought would be great friends, and certain things happened. And from my perspective, I was like, oh, these people are being really selfish. And again, I was younger. So I think I was so busy focusing on what they did wrong or what they did to me, and not how reactive I may have been to certain situations. Because that is something about, I think, my personality is I can be reactive. I can
Can you explain that? What does that mean? Reactive.
like my feelings will get hurt very quickly, very easily. And so it's that type of reaction and acting from the place of hurt to rebuttal if somebody says something to me. And I don't yell, I don't put people down or anything like that, but I will definitely be quick to call someone out. If I feel like you've done me wrong, I'm quick to tell you what I think you did wrong. And not that that's not a bad thing or not a good thing, because you should be honest and you should be Jesus, I'm trying to say communicative while being a poor communicator. So, anyways, but yeah, so I think that's part of it too. And look, sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes the other person is just lifing and going through stuff mentally that's putting them in a different headspace, and they don't realize that what they're doing is not considerate of you or your feelings, and giving that person grace. That's what I want to dial it back and bring it back to, is that whole having grace and understanding that and this was a tough one for me, but understanding that other people, just like you have that voice in your head that's repeating, whether it's insecurities or replaying a situation that just happened, they have that too. And a lot of times I forget that guys have that. Like, I know girls do, and I don't know what the voice sounds like for a man, but to understand and realize through having guy friends that they have sometimes those same conversations, and they're not perfect, and they're not walking around without feelings, although sometimes it seems like it, or not walking around without insecurities.
I want to take it back. The reason why I asked you to I don't even know the word that you use, but I was like, what did you mean by that? Reactive. Because I wouldn't consider you that. So I was curious as to what you thought that looked like in yourself. You did say you were young, so that means these other people were young. I think nowadays, and in healthy relationships, you should, platonic or romantic or whatever, you should be able to kind of have those conversations, or um vulnerably share like, oh, like, man, I didn't hear from you, and I thought I was, and that makes me feel really dumb, but I just wanted you to know, like, I was kind of in my feelings, whatever it is. um because and if and if you can't do that with somebody again, friendship, whatever, um then there's not an alignment, you're not an understanding, and that person will and will or may take offense to something like that if they're not used to constructive criticism or just people being a little honest with them or any honesty. So I don't know if I would call you reactive. I think I yes, I could agree that you may be sensitive, or like you're more in touch with your feelings. I haven't seen much of it, but I could agree with that, just knowing your personality. But I wouldn't consider you reactive. Like I just consider you like upfront and honest, and yeah. So it's not like, dang girl. But I mean, I didn't know you then either. So I know this Ali Kona.
Okay, so maybe I used wrong language. I said reactive because that's something somebody told me about me as a host. And I think maybe I could see where they say that. So for example, and this is a little off topic, but if I host a live show and sometimes people will be in my ear talking or something will go wrong and someone starts yelling at me, it changes how I deliver. And they're like, oh, she's so reactive. So maybe that's incorrect in saying, but I am definitely.
So what would it change? Like your
Well, depending on your definition of reactive, because some people might say reactive is somebody who, like, you insult them or you say something like in a debate or a fight, borderline fight, I put that in quotation marks, and you turn around and you lash out. I'm definitely not that person. I've never been that person. I've never yelled. I've never cussed at somebody like once because they just were cussing at me. But for the most part, I don't, I don't, because I grew up in a household with yelling. So I don't like yelling. If anything, when people yell at me, especially a male figure, it just makes me cry. In that reactiveness, I will automatically just lose my shit and cry because I got yelled at a lot as a little girl. But yeah, no, I mean, I've had situations. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because maybe I can just ask you like your insight and your opinion, and you guys at home, if you've ever had something like this happen. But I had a friend who was, I considered to be a very good friend that I held dear to me, and they moved due to life circumstances, and they moved to a different country where they're from, their home country, came back to LA to visit, and they were in town for like something like 2 weeks and didn't say anything to me. I found out through a mutual friend, and so I texted them and I was like, I'm really hurt to know that you've been here in LA and you've not called me or text me. That really hurts my feelings because I thought we were good friends. And they got very upset at me and they were like, well, you don't know what's going on in my life. You don't know what's happening, this, that, and third. Maybe I haven't called you for a reason or yada, 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 yada. And I was like, oh, my bad. Like, I thought I was just having a moment of honesty and sharing like my feelings are hurt. But sometimes when you tell somebody that they hurt your feelings, they get really offended because nobody wants to be that person, you know?
couple things. It depends what was going on in their life and how there's and David always says this. He's like, it's all in how you say things, right? When you're giving criticism or your thoughts, or the delivery is everything. The choice of words, your tone. Um, knowing you, you probably said it just kind of exactly how you did, and then
Well, it was through text message, so people can interpret it however. That's why I hate text message for very important conversations.
yes, so that makes sense for sure. But I mean, when somebody says you hurt my feelings, or that hurt my feelings, I don't know. I would assume that hurt my feelings. I mean, I don't know, but then again, if it's a good friend, then they know you. So, like especially actually Ali Kona's writing, with TV and film and stuff. She like when I'm reading it, I can read it in her voice. So the same thing with text usually, right? um, if you're watching the video, she just did something inappropriate. So now you have to watch the video. So I obviously that either person wasn't in a good headspace. What did they say though? Like what was going on?
What I just said. Oh well, okay. They had moved and they had a baby. That's why they moved back home. But then they came back to visit friends. So they were plenty hanging out with their friends. They just didn't hit me up, and I was like, oh, I guess we're not as good as friends as I thought. Because I know for me, the first thing I would do is like if it were you, Val, and I hadn't seen, I'd be like, girl, I'm back. Like let's go hang out. And so again, that person had been in town for like a week or two. And so that's why I was like, ooh, ouch. And I just let them know, like, it hurt my feelings. Like when they finally did text me, I was like, ow, kind of know you've been here. So and so told me. But yeah. Anyway, all that to say, oh, go ahead.
No, I love that we're bringing friendships up too, right? Because I think that especially when it comes to relationships ending, um usually it's so focused on romantic relationships, and that happens. And I think about like some of my friendships where nothing really happened. It's just time or distance or people just getting caught up in like the everyday, especially when it comes to people at our age now who have families, and even me, like my time is more limited because I have my own little new family, and you know planning things around Liv's schedule. It's like, oh, we have Liv this weekend, so or even the podcast, we're trying to, so there's so much that changes that isn't necessarily anybody's fault, or it's not, it doesn't come with malintent, but it does change dynamics and time and priorities. um Self-care is thrown out everywhere, which I agree with, right? And I think I know where you're going with this, but I do believe it's a cop out. And we had a kind of a conversation about somebody who used that on you a couple times, because yes, self-care and mental health days and all that, so necessary. But once you start seeing a pattern when somebody does it, it's kind of like you either need therapy or you just like, I call bullshit. I will hand over the mic.
Okay. I was actually going to lead into, I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to ask you if you've ever noticed or if you've ever had a moment where you realize it was your bad with a friend or with friends that fell apart or a relationship. And I did have a moment where I don't know if it was necessarily all my fault, but I took accountability because I had gotten into a conversation, a debate with a friend that Val is referring to, where they didn't show up for something twice, and I had scheduled the specific event. It was an event for me, but I worked my own event around this other person's work schedule just because I wanted them to come.
But you have to be specific because it matters.
Right. It was a birthday event. Okay.
Your birthday.
My birthday. Yes.
I just think that matters because it's not any old Tuesday, and it's not like Friendsgiving. It's your birthday. It comes once a year, and you hope that people would want to celebrate you the same way you always celebrate them.
Yes. And so, just 2 years in a row, I had scheduled the birthday party specifically. And both times it was like the day of, I can't make it. And, whatever. And one point it was like, they thought they were doing me a favor because they were in a bad mood. They were tired and they didn't want to bring down the vibe. And I was like, I totally get that. But in my upsetness and in my hurtness, I was just like, but like you said, you only have a birthday once a year, so I feel like that's a punk move. Like if it was just like we're all going to the movies and you bail out last minute, I get that.
Question: did the person make it up to you later ever?
No, they offered to, but because I said it was a punk move, they got upset and they never talked to me again. Yeah, and so I was like, oh, that sucks. And like a year went by, a year and a half went by, and I thought about this person. I was like, I really enjoyed them. Like I really liked them in my life. We laughed together a lot, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to take accountability for the fact that I may have offended them and they felt like their self-care was really that important that day. So I'm going to give them grace, if you will, and then I am going to call and just say, hey, I know it's been a while. Just wanted to say hello. The last time we spoke, this happened, and I just want to acknowledge that I'll take accountability for my part of how maybe it was not correct of me to sit there and say it was a punk move. But at the same time, I was like really hurt that I felt like I was moving mountains to make something happen and it didn't happen. And that was that. But like I said, that was that. If you really value somebody, like sometimes you have to be the first person to make the move and be like, hey, I'm sorry, and hope that they acknowledge that they're sorry too, or take again accountability for their part in the situation, because oftentimes it does take two people to have an argument or two people to go your own separate ways. Not always, but oftentimes. So yeah. But have you, Val, ever had a moment where you're like, oh, I guess that's sort of my fault, like maybe I should apologize, or acknowledge that this falling out had something to do with me?
Not the falling out. Didn't have anything to do with me, but the way. So my go-to is it's really easy for me to just cut you out, like out of sight, out of mind.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and so there has been and just in general, like even if I'm like not in a good mood or PMSing, like it's not an intentional, especially PMSing. It's not intentional, but I just need, like, I'm just quiet. And normally I've actually been in a relationship where he would point out, like, well, when you're not happy, everybody can, like, feels it. And I'm like, well, excuse me, because he had mental health issues. And I'm just like, I can't be like, yay, all the time. And especially during that time of month. And I think as I've gotten older, I feel like my time of the month is like rougher. I don't know. But I'm like quiet and I'm tired, and my mood is different. My energy is so very different. And so I do think, so that's just like um something I've noticed just within myself that is a very noticeable difference from my normal, or where I kind of like stay naturally. In relationships though, the falling out wasn't my fault, but the way I handled it, I think could have been better in the beginning with the communication, where I didn't just shut down so quickly and get so quiet so quickly. That was my own safe space, or what it felt like it, but I could see from the other side how that just feels very cold, how that just feels very like, do you not even care? You know, because outside looking in, I was good. Like, I'm living my best life, like everything's amazing, like I'm just like, you're over there and I'm over here. But in the inside, I was, obviously struggling or whatever, but that wasn't showing to that person. So I could see how that looks like, dang, like you just didn't, like, this was like a blip for you. Because I am really good at recovering from sad times, or faking the funk for as long as I need to, and then to have the feelings.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's exactly the same. Actually, somebody I knew in the past used to say that women, our hearts are like Rubbermaid, whereas men, it's like glass. Like, once they break, they're like, and we just bounce back. And I don't know what that is. Maybe it's like a hopeful thing, or I don't know. For me, I've watched a lot of rom-coms. I don't know. But I am good at pretending that nothing is wrong. I've had my feelings hurt many a times, and that's how I process and handle it, is privately, so you'll never know. But in that taking accountability, I actually had somebody tell me that, because I was the same way. I'm very career focused, and so in my mind, it's like I was coming home, I was going straight to the computer, doing whatever I needed to do, whether it's my writing, my editing, my shooting, my da 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 da. This is my work time from, let's say, 9 to 5, even though I'm at home. And then once evening time comes, then I'll come hang out with you. But to the other person, they felt like I was ignoring them all day. And they're like, oh, so you just want to hang out with me like an hour before you go to bed? And half the time you're so tired, you're falling asleep on me. And I was like, no, I want to spend time with you at the end of the evening. But and in my mind too, it was like, if I'm busy working, maybe that'll motivate you to get the itch to get up and go work on your career too. But it didn't. So I could see how it was perceived that way, because I'm so tunnel vision. And when somebody else is tunnel vision and they're ignoring me, I'm like, hello, hi, like I need a hug or something. Let's tell jokes, And so and I'm so big on communication, but sometimes I get myself into the situation of, and again, this is trauma behavior, but wanting to have a conversation about something difficult, and then as soon as criticism comes my way, I feel attacked, so I don't know how to verbally respond, and I'm being so self-conscious about not hurting their feelings and being blunt that I just shut down and say nothing. And that comes across as hypocritical, because it's like, well, you're the one who wanted to talk and you're not even talking. Well, this is too intense for me. I don't think I can do it. So anyways, but that's that whole, like you said, putting the shoe on the other foot and seeing being what your behavior might be perceived as by somebody else, that I don't think we do that often enough.
I think, it's all learning. Therapy, I think, helps because I feel like it's somebody unattached to you, third party who isn't involved, who doesn't have anything at stake. So I think it's extremely helpful. Um, so I recommend that for anybody who's coming out of a relationship, going into one, or just living your life, and especially now, like we were talking about that earlier, there's a lot of changes happening. But I think having the right people in your life, you'll know this when you feel safe to not be your own perfect. I was trying to find another word for perfect because nothing is perfect, nobody's perfect, but we all have an idea of what we look like at our best. And being able to safely be around people who know both sides of you, like know you at your best when you're like killing the game in your career, your fitness, your whatever, the things that are really important to you, and who know you when you're just like down and out, just like Eeyore, like super like wah, wah, and just kind of negative and just not the same. Like the people who can be with you on both of those, trains, like those are your people, and who you can like expressively, specifically describe and just be in those spaces wholeheartedly, like without fear of rejection, or without fear of like, oh, they're gonna think I'm too much. That's so important. Not that you need to be, not that like it's okay to be all like, and well, if you don't accept me this way, then you don't love me. I'm not saying that either. Let's be clear. Because like obviously get the help, and you have to want to be better. Like nobody's doing that for you, nor should they. That's not their job. Nobody's job is to make you happy. That's an important thing. Alikona raises her hand and is going to church.
I am going to church because there's so many times we do put that on our partners. Their job to make us happy. It's not their job to make you happy. Yes, they enhance your life, and being around them might make you giddy and excited, but it's not their job to make you happy if you're not happy. And I want to like take it back like just a little bit, because you mentioned like having certain people around you. So I got to give a shout out to my friend Luke, whom I'm attempting to get on the podcast. Luke from Bath. He's in Great Britain. Anyway, and when he gives advice, he sounds so sophisticated just because of his accent. But I'll say this. He he left me an audio message the other day. Like he's so blunt sometimes, but awesome because he's very pro me, and no romantic interest, by the way. Like he's married, he's a good friend of mine, whatever. But we'll have conversations about men, and he'll just be like, okay, well, this is what I think. This person is this, this, and this. And I already know that Luke thinks the world of me because he's told me that. So he'll be like, you know what? It's just, unfortunately, he doesn't care about you. He just doesn't care about you, because if he did, he would have done X, Y, and Z. And if somebody did this, I would go out of my way to do blah, blah, blah. This person should check on you. This person, he's like, so in conclusion, they don't care about you. And you're like, ouch. But I mean, thank you for the honesty, especially coming from the opposite sex when I'm asking for advice about the opposite sex. And at the same time, him also saying, this is what the behavior should be. When this happens with me and my wife and I'm wrong, I step aside and I da 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 da. And he had also said, which is I think is similar to what you were saying in terms of if you're in a ER mood or whatever, he's like, the term that he uses is having a conversation with himself. So he's like, if I'm down for a really long time, sometimes my parents will be like, Luke, it's time for you to have a conversation with yourself. And that's like the key of, oh, like, let's check in with myself and see, is it time to go to therapy? Is it time to do da 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 da? Okay, obviously my behavior is noticeable to other people. So anyways, not trying to put you on blast, Luke Hardwell, as I say your last name. But anyways, you give great advice, and that's all. I appreciate that.
No, I love that. I think we need that. We need those people who keep it real. And here's the thing, like, who those people are. Like when you want or the people who are going to give you what you want to hear. Like when you ask certain kind of questions and you're just like, well, let me ask this person, because they're going to be all team Val or team Alicona. I have those friends. My one of my best friends, Valerie, like she's 1,000% team Val all the time. I have a couple friends, my friend Corinne and Ben, who they're team real. And so I had what was it? I don't remember what it was. I do remember what it was, but I'm not going to share. Sorry. I literally did forgot. Anyway, a situation happened, you know what it is, but I reached out to my friend Corinne because she's super team real, and she saw it my way, and I was like, okay, good, because I wasn't sure. So I wanted to make sure I asked you, because I knew you would be like, okay, Val, like, no, that's just you having your feelings hurt or whatever, she would say. But you need those people in your life, and try to be try to be team real to your friends.
With love. Like you can tell when it's somebody is being
Right.
team real with love. Like I said, Luke, or it be you, will sit there and tell you all the great things about yourself and that you don't deserve, versus the team real, that's the person that might low-key be jealous of you and tell you shit that's mean, but it's not from a place of healthy. There's two totally different things.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I said earlier with approach. Like you can tell when someone's just like jealous or just being mean or has malintentions with the way they say things, or the people who are like, again, all in the approach, all in the words used, all in the tone. Like you can you'll know when you're like, what? And I said you'll know, and right away I was like, sometimes you don't right away, but if you go back to like thinking of who these people are and what they've been to your life, blah blah blah, then hopefully you get back. I think that's all. I had a different like tangent earlier. You were saying something, but I love that Luke is that person. We started the podcast talking about saying goodbye, right?
Saying goodbye with grace.
We haven't touched on this, but I would say bring that into your life in anything, not just relationships. Saying goodbye to the job, saying goodbye to the place you're living in, to to a career, because there's so many things in our lives that we shift from that all of a sudden don't fulfill us, whether it is a relationship or a job or a location or your color hair, it's like anything. I'm just saying it's just, it could be so simple or it could be incredibly complex, but saying goodbye also opens up so many doors, so many new beginnings, so many new chances, so many new opportunities, and even with got a little, we were talking about death yesterday, because I think about death all the time. I know that's dark for a half glass full kind of person, but I think that helps me be glass half full, because I'm like, this is gonna end, like, you don't know when. Anyway, so even in death, remembering that the goodbye is also like the beginning of, I don't know what it is. I'm getting so choked up, but just the idea of hopefully, the way I see it, what, if the person passed and there was a sickness or something like that, that there's a new realm where that doesn't exist and they're happy. Or if it's like our pets, like they're running around like crazy and they're not blind anymore. Miley's not running into things, and I don't know. That's such a funny
An example.
well, because during her last days, like, that was one of the hardest things. Oh my God. Like, she was so cute and she'd be like running into walls because she couldn't see. Yeah. And it like, oh my God, it was so hard to see. So in my head, like, I don't know, if I were her, I'd be like, yay, I can run.
I'm so mad at that example. Maybe on the other side, I'm not running into walls. Like, what? Okay. I don't even know where I was gonna go in the conversation. Like that totally sidetracked me from like everything.
Anyway, the whole thing is being able to say goodbye with grace in all aspects of your life, not only relationships.
Yeah, I agree with that. God, my story is like not even fun anymore compared to that one. But I was gonna say
Fun.
no, it wasn't fun. But like I was gonna talk about work. Like I've had that issue before, where it's interesting twice. I've never been fired from anything, but I had gotten fired from a job. I was accused of stealing, and that was awful. You know what I did? I used a coupon, and the company. I think they're just looking for a reason to get rid of me. But they were like, "You stole from the company because you used this 20% off coupon, and you could have. That's like 20% of money we could have had because you would have bought it at full price, and that coupon was meant for a customer." And I was like, what? Then they asked me, like, they took me into the security room downstairs. Like, then they were asking me if I've ever taken anything before. And I was like, what is happening? So that hurt my ego. And what's crazy is I had another job lined up after that, but I still went home and cried. Even though I like hated the job and I was so excited to be done, just the fact that somebody accused me of doing something awful that I wouldn't do really hurt. So that was sad. And the whole like I got fired thing. But then the next job I moved on to, I was touring with somebody else, and halfway, like 2.5 years into the job, halfway through a tour, I randomly got kicked off, didn't do anything wrong. And I thought to myself, the last time I got fired for something, I was really sad and I cried. And even though it's scary to lose a job, especially one that pays you very well, now you're not going to have money coming in, but also something you enjoy and you don't think you did anything wrong. Like it's really hard to process that and not be angry, sad, or scared. But for whatever reason, something intuitively inside said, don't do that, Alikona. Be excited. The whole like when one door closes, another opens. So I'm going to sit in the space of what's next? Like what's coming next? And then that's when the whole opportunity to write movies for television came along that I would have not been able to do had I been on tour because it's just so time consuming. So I've been trying to stay in that space this whole year of like, what's next? Like anytime something ends, I'm like, okay, something's coming. Or even like with money, like more is coming. Like I just know and da 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 da. So, anyways, that's off topic and on topic because it is that whole like saying goodbye with grace. Because I could choose to like stomp my feet and pound my fist and blah blah blah, but that's not going to change the situation. So if I can make myself feel better, like give yourself again the grace of having a day or two to mourn over the loss of whatever it is, but then after that picking yourself up off the ground and being like, okay, that did happen, I can't change it, how can I move forward? So anyways, that's it.
That's it. No, I love that. I think that's the lesson with all of it. Let's transition into our what ifs. Mine's gonna be super random. Not random because it goes with the song Going to the Chapel. But what if I get engaged in 2025? Hold on, my ring. I mean my finger.
Valerie, I'm trying to say all your names at once and it came blah blah.
So
Will
my
you be my best friend? Accept my plumeria ring.
I do see. It's so funny because these first two fingers, back to these dang fingers, man, they are so swollen right now. They hurt. But what if I get engaged in 2025 and I also get married in 2025 and I have the most magical, beautiful, intimate, romantic, special wedding that I could have ever imagined, and it's super easy to plan. Guest list isn't an issue, and it's just incredibly special and leads into all the things that I've ever wanted, and the universe and God knows what that is, and that all comes super fast and super easy too. And you become a TT.
Okay. What if I really didn't mean to give Valerie my favorite ring? I'm just kidding.
It's swollen. It's not coming out.
Oh my God, that's funny. That's fine. It's fine. Okay, so my what if is relevant, not relevant, and relevant all at the same time because you'd mentioned Miley, and then we had a guest come on a couple episodes ago, Nikki Bryce, who is intuitive, she's psychic, she's medium, she's all the things. And what she had said on our episode is when she looked into near-death experiences, the common thing that people said they experienced was love, lots of love, vibrant colors. She said flowers showed up often and like beautiful colors that you've never seen before in your life, like so beautiful, and just the feeling of love. And so I had a dream. I'll briefly tell you, I had an awful dream first about my dog where I saw her like drop 20 feet from something, and it was horrible. And then the next night, like after having that conversation with Nikki, because I felt bad, the next night I had a dream that somebody was painting a mural on a wall, and they were flowers, and they were vibrant, and they were beautiful. And each time they sent me a screen, like a shot of their progress, it was more and more beautiful. And then I looked down, and Lonnie Kai was down on the bed next to me as I looked at the photos, and she was surrounded by flowers, and I was rubbing her belly. And so my what if is like, what if that really is true? And what if that was her coming back to be like, no, mommy, it's okay. Like the bad dream was just a bad dream, but I'm okay, and I'm loved, and I'm happy, and I'm good. And what if I get
She's not running into walls.
right? What if she's not running into walls? Although she did do that with perfect vision, and I think she got that from me. But what if I do get to connect with her again? Like that is the one thing to look forward to, I think. And like I don't think about death often. I did when I was younger, but I hope that in that, like, I do get to see her again. And I hope she's the first, I say person, but the first person that I ever see that comes and greets me. And like, what if I get to like feel her little wet nose and her little kisses again, and I get to hug her and put my face in her soft curly fur? Like, what if? That'd be amazing. So nice.
What if Tyler Henry writes me back on the DMs and I get a reading with him, and then all of our babies and loved ones come back and give us messages? This concludes our Hawaii edition of Your Unpaid Therapist. Thank you so much, because I think we talked about this, but this was my surprise gift from Alicona for turning 40, new decade. So, and it was awesome. Like we really were challenged with like the weather and things to do and stuff, but it turned out great. The sun's out, and here we are. And I love you, and I appreciate you. Thanks, friend.
You're welcome, friend. I love you. I appreciate you. And like one of the reasons you guys don't care, but I'm telling you anyway. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is because I feel like Valerie is so incredibly thoughtful and always doing for other people. And I just thought, like, what can I do for you? I knew you wanted to go somewhere. 40 was a big deal, and you didn't necessarily get to go on a big, extravagant, like quote unquote luxurious trip. You had a fun trip, adventurous trip. But I just wanted to be able to do something for you that I know you would do for anybody else, and not have to plan shit. Although the planning kind of went awry with the weather, but whatever. Anyways, all that to say, I'm glad you had fun. I hope you guys enjoyed our Hawaii edition. Mahalo, and we will see you back in, I was gonna say the States. Somebody said that to me, by the way. Someone was like, do they accept American money in Hawaii? And I was like, yo, it's the United States. Well, what I meant was, do they accept cash out there? And I was like, yes. What? Anyways, okay, this is long drawn out goodbye. So goodbye. Aloha, everybody.